I'm coming right back. I just did my front 242 video. I'm doing a 1-2 punch with my front 242 videos today. I've been listening to these. I just got done ripping them actually. I'm ripping my vinyl, and they still sound good. And I have a lot to say about them. So I'm going to go right into Front 242's next record. This one right here. Let me take this. Let me take this off. Get rid of that glare. This is Tyranny For You. And there are many times in recent years where I feel like this might be my favorite Front 242 album. It's grown on me. Front by Front has just always been the album in terms of Front 242. That's always been the record where I go to. Like, yeah, that's their best record. But my my opinions have been shifting a little bit in recent years. This album came out at a strange time. By the way, look at that. Look at that cover. Come on. That is a powerful cover. It's just a diver. It's somebody diving, I think, right? But it looks pretty disturbing. This record came out at an odd time. There's the track listing. You get 10 solid cuts, and I have some singles I'm going to babble about here. I'll just break out. I'll just break out the inner sleeve so you can check it out. As always, the imagery is something to behold. See how my mic's doing. Yeah, it's doing pretty good. Something to behold. You are presented with some stark imagery as you listen to the album. There's the flip side. This is the US edition, by the way. This is not on Wax Tracks. In fact, none of these are on Wax Tracks. They signed over to Epic here in the United States. They were on Red Rhino in Europe. I think mainly Belgium. These guys are Belgian. But in Europe they're on Red Rhino. Here in America they're on Epic. And I saw them on this tour. And it was fun. It was cool. Just to see Richard 23 alone was cool. After all of my, ministry and revolting Cox connections. There are the labels. And this came out in 1991, right? 91. That sounds right. So, yeah, I was getting to it in a rough way earlier, but this album came out at a strange time, I feel, because it was right smack dab in the middle of rave culture. And I think Front 242 understood, I can't get this back in here. I think Front 242 understood that they should probably change up their sound to some degree. And they were into rave culture and rave electronic techno house music as much as anybody was. I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't gravitate toward this album at the time. I was so excuse me, I was so taken with everything else that was coming out electronic music wise. I mean, if you were alive and buying records in the 90s and you were into underground electronic music, you know what I mean when I say literally on a daily basis you were having your mind blown by music. There, you couldn't keep up with it. There was so much good shit coming out. It was insane. All throughout the 90s too. It wasn't just like 1 year here, 1 year that, no. It was throughout the entire decade of the 90s. There was so much good shit coming out. It was mind-blowing. And so I think I was so distracted by all of the new stuff coming out that when this came out, I didn't give it the time it deserved. But over time, and now that I've listened to it many times in my life, it's really grown on me. And let me show the other singles that came from this, and then I'll get those out of the way first, and then talk about, you know, talk about them all as one. There's that. This is Tragedy For You. Let me get it out of its sleeve so it's not glaring so much. US 12-inch, Tragedy For You. You get some mixes on there. This is my favorite single from the album. For one, Maybe not. The next one might be close. Rhythm of Time. I say that because it's got an Orb remix on it. I love the Orb. And this is like classic Orb. I think this is like in my opinion, the Orb were there at their best when thrash was in the band. When it was Patterson and thrash, that's when the Orb absolutely destroyed it. UF Orb is the Orb's greatest album, hands down to me. And that was this time. Thrash and Patterson do a remix of Rhythm of Time, and it's fantastic. This is like a dark horse single. This is Mixed by Fear. I'll get into this in a minute. But this is a fantastic 12-inch and not easy to find. At least it wasn't for me. This is not an easy record to find. I'll talk about that in a minute, though. Let me put these over here. I'm going to get into these records because they absolutely deserve it. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. All right. Front 242, Tyranny For You. Let me think about this. This came out in the middle of the rave scene, like I mentioned before, and I think that they changed up their sound a little bit. It's very much more than any other album they did. It was very techno inspired, but it also kind of has some guitars on it. This is the first time you hear some guitar work going on. Even if it's samples, you hear some guitars. That kind of put me off at the time. I was so into electronics and techno and house music. I didn't want to hear it. I was like, guitars? Who the hell wants to hear that shit? And so you do hear some of that on here. It was a new approach for these guys. Over time, though, it's a cool sound. It's done well. There are some other bands in this world, and I'm not going to name them. I've already named them enough in my past videos. Let me fix this. Sorry. I'm not going to name the bands that incorporated guitars and corny vocals into this type of music. So, but that was going on at this time, and I never really got into that sound. I thought that guitars were just a tired old wheezy approach to music at that point. I thought let's ditch all these traditional instruments and get to what's exciting, which is electronics. That's how I felt at the time. And I do think that has merit when you're talking about electronic music. You want to get rid of all those organic instruments and explore technology. But that's exactly what they were doing here. I didn't quite get it when this came out. I've started to understand that more as time has gone on, and I've really started to appreciate this album. And I think it's generally one of their most underappreciated albums. This didn't come out in the 80s. It's not on wax tracks, so it doesn't have that whole aura to it. So I think that maybe that's part of the reason why it isn't more celebrated. Maybe it's a little bit of an underdog. But there's some great stuff on here, man. It's well produced, just like everything else they've ever done. It just has a different approach. It has a slightly different sound. The messages are still there. They're still political. They're still railing against religion. They're doing all those things they should be doing. But it's got that rhythm, man. It's got those beats. At its heart, it's club music, and that's never changed for these guys. Some awesome stuff going on here. And this album's really grown on me over time. And the imagery, again, awesome. They're back to the classic 242 logo on the cover. They didn't do that for front by front. They're back to doing it now. And I mean, this is a cover you have to deal with. You don't ignore a cover like this. Really cool cover. Just boom, boom. Two very simple concepts, but a lot to think about. This is music that is different. I think most Front 242 albums have a very similar theme musically and sonically. This record is different. I would argue that Tyranny For You is their most different sounding album in their catalog. There's nothing much else in their catalog that sounds like this album. And that's why I like it. It's different. It's the same but different. You know, it's the same band, but they're definitely employing some different avenues and approaches to what they normally do. And that's what you should do when you're in a band, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, why do the same shit year in and year out? That's boring. You need to change it up just to keep yourselves interested, I think. You need to change it up. This was the opening single from the album, Tragedy for You. I'll show the label. Here you go. Get some this is on Epic. This is the US release. This is a pretty, I don't want to say it's a standard club track. Nothing Front 242 did was ever standard, but this is a pretty straight up club track. Some nice grooves, some nice beats. You can't help but shake your ass when you hear this. You get 4 mixes. You get the 12-inch version, Neuro Dancer, which is probably my favorite, Punisher Machine mix, and Slow Mo mix. 4 mixes on this sucker. And yeah, you need to have this. As I always harp on, if you have an album that you love, and there are 12 inches that go along with it, why would you not have the whole set? Come on. As I was mumbling about before, my favorite. The orb mix is so good, and I just realized I don't have the 7-inch. There's a 7-inch that goes with this. I mean, not literally, it doesn't go with this, but the 7-inch version of this single, there's a different orb mix on it. It's called Messengers of Neptune. And that's just a straight up ambient version. This is a hard hitting techno version that Orb give here. And then you listen to the 7-inch, it's totally different. It's a bummer they didn't put it on here too. It's only 3 tracks. The Orb mix is the Victor the Cleaner mix. It's too bad they didn't put Messengers of Neptune on here. That would have been really awesome. Both Orb mixes are really fantastic. And the beginning of this Orb mix is really funny. I think it's either Patterson or Thrash fucking around in the studio. You hear this distorted voice going, "Oh my God, I'm coming." I'm pretty sure it's them. They were probably stoned out of their minds in the studio goofing around. And they they tacked that onto the beginning of this mix. The Orb, never, you can never accuse them of not having a sense of humor. If nothing else, the Orb have a classic sense of humor. Excellent mix. The 2 other mixes are fine. You get the 12-inch mix and another remix of Rhythm of Time from Front 242. But it's the Orb mix that you want here. That's the classic. Now, I like talking about this one because I've never seen another one of this ever. Mixed by Fear. I don't know that this even ever came out on a commercial CD, at least here in the United States. I have a vague memory of seeing a CD somewhere. Maybe it came out in Europe. But in terms of a 12-inch, I've never seen it. I've seen 1 copy in my life, and that's the one I got. This is Mixed by Fear. And basically it's Gripped by Fear. That's the name of the track from the album. But they remixed it. And if you want this on vinyl, good luck to you, my friends, because yeah, I think this only got released as a promo in Belgium. Pretty sure this is a Belgian only. Let me look at the label here. I'm pretty sure this is a Belgian only release. Let me show the label here first. Take a look at this, because you're never going to see it again. I swear to God, I've never seen this before. Even other Front 242 fans I know are like, what the hell? I've never seen that. Let's see. I'm looking for a country. Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay. There's French text on here. So that tells me this is a Belgian only 12-inch. And it is a promo. It basically has Grip by Fear club mix on one side at 45 RPM. And then this is the track that I don't understand why this didn't get a wider release. Is the B-side. Look at it. You only get one mix of Grip by Fear. It's Mixed by Fear, but it's the B-side. This World Must Be Destroyed. Awesome song. It's split into 4 parts, but it's basically all the same track. To this day, This World Must Be Destroyed might be my favorite Front 242 track. It's got no singing, no vocals whatsoever. And it's like a 12-minute grind, dance grind. Arguably the most techno, straight up pure techno song they ever did. It's got some samples in it, but it is a fantastic song. I really hope Front 242 at some point release this where more people can hear the full version on a record, because I think it's maybe the full track has been released to a CD somewhere, but that track needs to be on a piece of wax as far as I'm concerned. It's honestly, in my opinion, arguably the best song they ever did. One of the best B-sides, well, Welcome to Paradise is great, but maybe the best B-side they ever did for sure. Mixed by Fear, a very, very good song. Gripped by Fear is an excellent song too, but This World Must Be Destroyed, y'all. Fantastic, hidden away, vastly underappreciated by no fault of ours. I mean, I think it's underappreciated because people just don't know it. Go look it up on YouTube. In fact, if I can find a link to the full song, I'll link it in the video. This World Must Be Destroyed. Absolutely essential Front 242 business. You need to have it. But here's the album, y'all. I think this arguably could be their most underrated. Tyranny For You. Revisit this if you can. I have. I underappreciated this at its time that it came out. I have since learned to love this record. And I think to really get the full breadth and appreciate this album, you should have these singles that go with it. Especially this with the Orb remix, and this with This World Must Be Destroyed. The Tragedy For You 12-inch is fine, but if you're the other two are essential. If you like this record, you have to have it. All right, as usual, thanks a lot for watching my video. Two front 242 videos for you today. Try saying that quickly over and over. And until next time, thanks. Bye.